Welcome back to another episode of Respect Her Game. We're welcoming back guest host Laura Stickells, who we had an awesome podcast a couple of weeks ago when you joined us. I was at the edge of my seat listening to all your adventures in Alaska and your journey to get to where you are today, which I know you want your journey to keep going. I feel like we could have had a whole podcast or a couple more just getting your life stories, but we have a lot to get to today, so we're not going to deep dive into that. We are going to have Jaime Lee Rattray on of PWHL Boston representing Team Canada. So we're going to talk to her about the season, about the growth of the PWHL, about the Olympics coming up in a couple years, all that good stuff. But we're going to start with something that we were just chatting off camera. You got in a hot debate with, we learned that you're covering the Woo Sox as well for NESN. So you got in a hot debate with some of the players on the team about something in particular. I'll let you set it up. Let's start there.
Yeah, so last week I was in Worcester covering their series against the Rochester Red Wings, the Washington Nationals affiliate, and I went downstairs to into the clubhouse to talk to one of the players that had actually just been called up from High A, Carson Seamus, who had a great series, really stepped up there, and I wanted to talk to him about his story and how he's been having so much success in AAA. And I just introduced myself because I hadn't spoken to him yet. I said, "Hi, I'm Laura Stickells. I'm the sideline reporter for the NESN broadcasts here in Worcester." And three players kind of turned around and started looking at me. And I was like, did I do something, or should I be embarrassed? What happened? And so I was like, maybe we could go talk in the dugout or something. So we were kind of on the way out. And one of the players stopped me and they're like, "You're not a sideline reporter?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am. I am the sideline reporter. I don't know what you're saying." It's like, "There's no sidelines in baseball. You're like the first baseline reporter." It's like, you can't be a sideline reporter. And I kind of sat there thinking about it, and I was like, well, he's not wrong. And it's actually a pet peeve of mine when people call hockey rinkside reporters sideline reporters, because I'm like, there's no sidelines in hockey. Come on, the rink side. And so I'm like, well, he does have a good point. So we kind of sat there for a couple of minutes and brainstormed some other ideas for what a baseball reporter should be called. I'm curious though, Soph, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so I accidentally, but I've gotten better. I always say sideline with the Boston Bruins, and I'm not. I've gotten better at saying ringside. I'm like, no, ringside with the Boston Bruins. I think those sideline represents essentially what the role is in across all sports, where you have your anchors, your play-by-play color, your panelists, and then the woman or man down on the scene closest to the field or to the rink. I guess when people say sideline, they get that what that means, what the role is. You are reporting what you're hearing, what you're seeing back to the booth, back to the people. So for me, it is an all-encompassing role. You're the sideline reporter, football, basketball, hockey, baseball. But technically you're right. Hockey, it's ringside, and baseball, I never thought about that. So I don't like the first baseline reporter title at all. I do not like that. What did you guys come up with that was reasonable?
Well, their suggestion that they thought was the best was dugout reporter. I laughed at that because I'm like, I'm not even in your dugout. I'm in the photo pit. If I was in the dugout, that would be a problem. So that's the one that they came up with. I kind of left thinking, okay, maybe team reporter. But that being said, I feel like if I were to go up and introduce myself to a player that doesn't know me as a team reporter, they could think that I'm writing for the newspaper or for anything else. And I do think it's important for people to realize that I am representing a TV station, because I do think that impacts the way people interact with me. And it's just important to know who you're speaking with. So I feel like sideline, like you said, is just an all-encompassing term. And it lets people know exactly what you're doing.
Yes.
Especially, too, even if I said I was the NESN reporter for a player that was just traded or something like that, they might not be familiar yet what NESN is. So, anyways, it was an interesting debate. It got me thinking. I think I'm going to continue to call myself a sideline reporter, but it definitely, it made me laugh for sure.
I feel like in Major League Baseball, I don't know if they throw down when they throw down, when Jack and Brick used to throw down to me. I don't think Jack, maybe at the beginning of my career with Nesson just to get me familiar with fans. He's like, let's throw it down to our ringside reporter, Sophia. But for the most part, do people do that in sports where they throw it down to the reporter? Do they give the title like sideline, ringside? I don't think so, right?
No, the way that I feel like I'm most often introduced on broadcasts is let's throw it down to the third member of our team, Laura Stickells. And maybe they might say who's standing ringside or something like that, but they
Right.
say third member
Right.
of the team.
Right. I think sideline's appropriate for baseball. Dugout reporter sounds like better, but no, because it would mean that you're like in the dugout and then like getting the behind the scenes of what they're talking about, what seeds they're eating, whatever the heck they're doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So no, but anyway, good debate there. I do think first baseline reporter, whatever the hell else they came up with, that doesn't fly. I would stick to sideline. I think you're good introducing yourself as sideline.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, and my last thought on it too, if I was the dugout reporter, first baseline reporter, that means I would be specifically with one team. And there's a lot of
Right.
sideline reporters for national broadcasts that it's their responsibility to cover both teams. So
Correct.
you want a more all-encompassing term. Um,
Correct.
but so for right now, you're in Toronto. You went home or getting some nice time with family, I would assume. What are you doing up there? What's your Bruins off-season looking like so far?
Yeah, so I am in Toronto where my family is, and like I love Boston. To all the Boston listeners, and I know Boston's the best in the summer, but it's tough because like my nieces are here, my nephews are here, my parents, my whole family, my best friends. It's tough not to come home when I have the opportunity, especially that like we can do these podcasts remotely. I do plan on spending a bit of my time this summer in Boston because I've yet to really have a Boston summer. I always come home. I go to Poland where my roots are. Like my parents were born there, emigrated there in their 30s. So like I go there as well. And so every summer when I use my vacation time, I've kind of not been in Boston. I feel bad. Like I haven't seen the Cape properly. I've never been to Martha's Vineyard. I know Maine's beautiful, Vermont. Like I just haven't spent a lot of time in New England, Rhode Island. So that's a goal of mine. But if I could just like transport all my family and friends to come with me, it'd be way too expensive. That would be a lot easier. So yeah, I'm spending time in Toronto for now doing these podcasts. And in the off season, obviously our season goes until the Bruins lose. So if they were still playing, we'd be working. But I'm obviously keeping up with all the storylines. But in terms of coverage, it's the draft, what the Bruins do in the draft. It's the awards if members of the Bruins or management are nominated. Last year, Lena Solmark, Jim Montgomery, David Pastrnak, all nominated. So big representation there for the Bruins. And then in early July, there's development camp. There's obviously, free agency. Let's not skip over that, July 1st. And then development camp happens. And so there's a bit of coverage there, but pretty much I get to take all my vacation in July, like after that in July, and then into August. It's more community events. There's Jimmy Fun that Nesson that we do. It's a couple of days that everyone at Nesson works. And there are community events with the Boston Bruins that they're still active in the summer. Like that team, maybe not the players, but the ones who are around, and then the PR for community representation and alumni is very, very active. And then obviously it ramps up in September with training camp and all of that. And then you're like full steam ahead. I feel like even though I've done this 5 years, this particular job 5 years, every time it starts, it takes me like 2 weeks. If I feel like I'm in a tornado for 2 weeks and then I settle, but it's like from 0 to 100 so quickly. And it's not even really games. It's just training camp. But for some reason, it just takes over preseason games and then the season just starts. So I'm lucky that I have quite a bit of rest in the summer and I get to be in Toronto, even though I'm working, doing the podcast, doing extra time. It's nice to be with family and friends. It feels like when I go home, I can just put my head down. When I go back to Boston, I can put my head down, focus on the season because I've gotten my time with like family and friends. And then it's just pretty much work all season. So the balance is a slower off season for sure. No training for me. No like whatever dry land training or ice training like the players do. But I get to put my feet up a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you work so hard during the season. You've definitely deserved a little bit of rest. But I like what you said about how it feels like a tornado those first couple of weeks and then things start to settle. That doesn't mean, though, that it's easy the rest of the way. I just think what it kind of feels like is it's like the start of a race. Like you're getting your running legs going and then it's like, okay, like I'm in it, I'm running. It's that feeling of stopping and starting that is sometimes takes the most out of you, but then you kind of, the momentum just sort of takes over and it can carry you to the end of the season. But so I have to ask you, because you're in Toronto right now, and there was that amazing clip of you during that first round series against the Maple Leafs. It was the Pastrnak game-winning goal?
Yeah.
Right after that, and you gave Brick a big hug in the studio booth. It was clear that, you love the Bruins through and through. So I'm wondering how many people in Toronto are giving you a hard time about that right now.
I mean, I think they still do. I think if this was year one, I think people, my friends, my family, everyone who knew me here would be so betrayed. But by now they know I'm like a huge Bruins fan. I have fallen in love with working for the team, covering the team. I love my Nesson team. So it's just when your work is enjoyable, when you're treated well, when the product helps, the product is really good, like they're just competitive every year. It's unbelievable what they are able to do. And the players are just awesome people, and their families. I've gotten to know their wives, I've gotten to know their parents and siblings. Like you just end up rooting and caring for them so much. So by now my friends and family know, but there were still some people who were like, yeah, right, deep down, I know you're still a Leafs fan. And then when they saw that video, they're like, oh my God, you bleep hole or whatever, right? They're like, I can't believe it. How could you betray? And the best way I explain is like, as a kid, I was a Leafs fan. That's how I got into hockey for sure. But I may have said this on other podcasts, may not, but I didn't have the best experience as a young woman around the NHL while I was covering the Leafs. Like things have changed for women since. I didn't get that much respect. I wasn't always treated great. I was kind of put in uncomfortable situations sometimes. And then the Leafs organization is really different than the Bruins one. And the media stinks. Like I know media's tough everywhere, but the media in Toronto, awful. And I really actually don't have a lot of respect for some of the people in that room. And I'll say that publicly. We can save that for another day. But some of those writers I have very little respect for as people. And so I just was around like negativity. And that takes a lot of passion and fire away from you. And so when I joined the Bruins, I was expecting the same thing because I didn't know what to expect. I was like, this is just the hockey culture. This is just the way it is. Whatever. It's part of the gig. But I was blown away pretty much immediately, maybe day 3 on the job. I was like, this is different. And so when players say, the Bruins are different, Nick Foligno comes in as a former captain, as a veteran. He's like, this room's different. Kevin Shattenkirk comes in and it says, this room's different. They're not just saying that. Like the respect that Zdeno Chara and I know guys before him, but he really, really created this culture, and Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand now are kind of leading, and management as well. It's just different. And I love how they treat me, and they really do respect me and value my opinion. And the media as well is a lot better to deal with here. Like, how can you not be? And that's what I tell my family gets it. My friends who are like, oh, you betrayed them. I'm like, if you grew up liking something and they weren't good to you, and then you met someone else that was good to you, you would have this affinity for them. And so I'm forever grateful for the Boston Bruins. And I loved posting that because it was kind of in your face. Not, you know what? I just want to quickly clarify. Some of the players on the Toronto Maple Leafs I developed friendships with, and they're amazing people. It's not the players themselves. It's like the media and the culture of what it means to play with the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's a lot more pressure. And again, I'm 37 now. I was 18, 19, so young, covering the NHL as an intern, and the rules for how you talk to people, and especially young women, have changed, and the culture has changed. And so I'm not saying the Leafs did that, but the NHL in general was a more difficult environment to work in. So I just want to be clear that I have a lot of respect for a lot of the friendships and the guys I met on the Leafs. It was more working for that organization that changed how I feel about it. And the Bruins ones is the best.
No, what you're saying is so true. And it's something that I've realized throughout my career is there's sort of two things that you have to weigh when you start working for a new team. One is the relationship that you have with the players and the coaches, and then the other is the relationship that you have with the other media members and the people within your network. And it's so rare when you get to love both. Like, I feel like there's a lot of times it's like, oh, I love this team, but, you know, I'm not enjoying necessarily the people I'm around every day, or vice versa. And when you get to have both, it's so rare and it makes the job so fun. And I haven't spent a ton of time around the Bruins, but I have spent a lot of time around the Bruins broadcast crew stage managing, and it really is a family. It's such a good group. I guess I'm also curious too. You said like 3 days in, you realized that it was different. Was there a moment that sticks out to you?
I think when I worked in Canada for Sportsnet, there's one producer who I won't mention, who I have the best things to say about, but he's not there anymore. But for the most part, they saw me as like my job was reading tweets. Like, I had so much hockey knowledge and so much information, but they kind of cornered me to reading tweets. And I felt like they saw me as like, oh, you're just like the token girl we're going to have on the show, which has changed. You know, they've done a good job incorporating women, but I had so much to say and so many hockey stories. They're like, no, you can just read these tweets. So I felt very belittled in that. And when I came to Nesson, they kept saying, they're like, we hired you because of your hockey knowledge. Like, you seem to be good at broadcasting too, and you're a likable person from what we can gather. But we hired you because we're so excited to have someone with this hockey knowledge who's going to break down the game in her questions, who's going to contribute, who's, you know, whatever. They were complimenting all the things that Sportsnet took away and that they just like ignored. And so it was kind of in the initiation of meeting people and being in meetings and their vision for me. And similarly with Cam Neely and Don Sweeney, who I got to interview pretty early on, Charlie Jacobs, they were like, welcome to the team. And like, we're so excited to have you because of what you know and what you're going to bring to the broadcast. And I was like, oh, no one's ever complimented me for that before. And Sportsnet definitely didn't see that in me, and they didn't care to expand that, where I just felt like I was doing these like girly roles, which I hated that women, you know, were put in that position. And so it was kind of just right away. They're like, we can't wait for you to use your knowledge in this game. And I was like, no one's ever said that to me before. Thank you. So it was kind of that made me realize, and then it snowballed right into the opportunities I was given, the trust I was given. And so that snowballed, but that was so nice to hear. And everyone deserves to hear that if they've worked hard and if that's true. I just wasn't getting that at Sportsnet.
Yeah, and that's so important too for a reporter's confidence. Like, it's so hard to go on air and do this job when you're not feeling confident. And having somebody, I'm sure, be able to compliment your knowledge and realize that you do know a lot about this game, I'm sure that only helped you feel better and actually helped you also come across better on camera too.
Yeah, and I still to this day have deep imposter syndrome, and I try not to, but sometimes I like leave a show and I'm like, I don't know anything. What am I doing? But that's not true. But if you make one mistake, sometimes it just ruins your whole day. And I'm trying, or if it's live and you're trying to get over that. But sometimes I'm like, God, like I hate myself. But that's I think that's normal. I talk to a lot of the players who, unfortunately for them, it's like triple highlighted. Someone might make a bad pass, and then everyone's like, that's hockey 101. You idiot. You know what I mean? And that sucks for them. It's like they're the best hockey players in the world. Everyone can make a bad pass sometimes. But I know that they go through that sometimes, where they're like, they feel so in the spotlight. And the imposter syndrome is real, but it's so helpful to know that would be even worse when someone would double down. If your boss were to double down and say, what do you even know about hockey? You would, you'd crumble. But in this case, Nesson's like, they understand that's part of the gig. They know I work hard not to do that. They know I work hard to prep, and the rest is just part of the game. So yeah, it's been a big compliment, and the Bruins have been a huge, and a very positive impact on my career.
It's interesting to hear that you still have imposter syndrome, because like, to me, you just seem like so knowledgeable, and that you just are one of the best women covering hockey right now, best reporters covering hockey generally. But it's also interesting for me to hear because, of course, I have imposter syndrome too. And it's like, this isn't just something that I'm going to deal with now. It's something that I'll probably still be dealing with in 5 years. But what you said too about making a mistake on air and that sticking with you, I think it's so important too to be surrounded by people that really believe in you, because when I make a mistake on air, like, I am kicking myself for it for a week. And the last thing I need is for somebody else to come to me and be like, did you know you made this mistake? It's like, yes, I know. And I'm so glad that everybody else noticed it too. I think with us, especially because we care so much, we're so hard on ourselves that we don't need anyone else piling on. We're already giving ourselves enough grief for it.
Totally. And honestly, Laura, I would love to develop this conversation longer and further because I have so much to say about it. Maybe we'll pause it for now because we do have Jaime Lee Rattray waiting to join us on the show. So we're going to throw to that right now, and we'll come back to wrap it up after the interview. As promised, special guest on our show, Jaime Lee Rattray. Thank you so much for being on Respect Her Game, brand new podcast that we're trying to highlight the accomplishments and the stories of women all over sports, not only playing but in the media as well. But of course, you playing for PWHL Boston, representing Team Canada as well. Currently in Ontario, we were just chatting, currently in Ontario at your cottage, enjoying a much well-deserved off season. So I actually wanted to start there because I realized I know what the Bruins do in the off season and what their training looks like, but what does your off season look like, and how much training do you get in? How do you enjoy yourself, and how do you prep for next year?
Yeah, I mean, probably similar to what those guys do. I spend 5 to 6 days in the gym usually, or sometimes I sneak in a workout up here when I'm enjoying some downtime up here. But it's about the same probably as them. I'm, staying ice for a little bit now that we are done with, kind of put the gear away for about a month and a half or so. Maybe not that long, but enjoy some time out of my gear and just enjoy the gym and enjoy some up here.
Well, Jaime, it was still a very active week in the PWHL because you had the draft and you had the PWHL awards. I'm curious, after going through the draft yourself last year, what was it like to just get to sit back and watch this year?
Yeah, it was fun. I think the cool thing is last year we had we all kind of didn't know what to, all kind of the first time through it. And now I would sit back and watch, and I'm sure the girls, had some nerves, but also excitement at the same time. And it was kind of interesting to see. We're going to do, especially Boston, see what I do. And I'm super happy with what we did. And I think Danielle and Court have a really good vision for our group. So it was nice to sit back and not be as nervous as I was last year or excited. So it was really fun. I'm so happy for all the girls, right? It's a reality. They have something to shoot for when they're done with university, and something that have coming out of school. So it's a really cool thing to see a lot of the girls that just graduated that have something to look forward to.
Obviously, a super successful inaugural season for the PWHL. Something with all the guests we've had on that I mention is how quickly it happened and it got underway. I know there were rumors that perhaps they were going to take a year longer just to get everything ready, get the arenas down, get logos, all that. But without that, still the success, and it just goes to show minds coming together and the passion to get this going is part of that. But where do you see the league developing as the years go? Because it can really only go up from here. As someone in it, where do you see the league developing and the excitement around it growing even further?
Well, I mean, you saw how big it was this year. I think it, exceeded all the expectations we as a player. I didn't really know what to expect. I knew that it was going to be awesome hockey. I think we've had a good product for so long, so I knew the hockey was going to be amazing, and it was as a player. But I think I think the way it took off was definitely something that I don't think any of us ever expected. And it is crazy when you're there in the right way. People will watch it and people will come, and it was super special to be a part of. And to be honest, see it going up from here. I mean, you look at the WNBA and WSL are just loving women's sports right now. And to be honest, when you put the investment behind it and you put the eyes on it, and it's only a matter of time. It grows, and I can imagine what next year is going to look like. And now we kind of know kind of more of the structure and how it works and how it's going to. I think it only is going to go up from here, and I'm excited to see what the logos look like. I'm excited to see what team name we got, and like that, it'll just start shaping more of what the league looks like. And I think it was pretty cool this year just having the cities represented. Something that we can look back 20 years and be like, oh, that was the first ever Boston jersey, right? It just had Boston on the front, and as you guys know, the city of Boston is pretty cool to be a part of. So that was a touch for this year, I thought.
I think it was so great, too, that the 6 cities that were chosen were such great sports cities. And in that same vein, there was like headlines every other week, another sold out arena, another PWHL sellout. I'm curious if there's a moment for you looking back when you were most blown away by, or something that's really going to stick with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think watching kind of sellouts like in Scotiabank Arena, Toronto, and then at the Bell, I think as a fan, watching that was really cool. I mean, I can only imagine how the players felt. And I know we went through when we played in Detroit. We had some girls too that I thought was really cool to have a game there. And I remember being in the starting lineup, looking around, and it was so loud in there. As soon as they kind of figured out who they were for, it was really loud and something really cool to be a part of. And I think that moment kind of sticks out for me in terms of how far we had made it. I think there were so many crazy moments. Now that I'm a couple weeks out of it, I think you finally can reflect on how special this season was. And it hasn't really hit me totally, but I think looking back, there's so many moments. To be a part of it was super special. And I'm just really happy that it took off the way it did, because, I think as players, we've kind of worked really hard to get to where we are, the eyes now. And to the girls who didn't get to be a part of this league, they've really done a good job of building up as well. And I hope they get some credit as well and feel like they were a part of it, because they deserve it just as much as the girls that played this year.
I know the Walter Cup final didn't end as the way you guys wanted, but something that stood out to me was immediately the crowd on its feet just saying, "Thank you, Boston. Thank you, Boston." Can you take me through the emotion of that and of the crowd? Not only that, the ticket prices being so high, which I loved, because that, we know that unfortunately money is one of the biggest reasons why things will help things keep going. But knowing that some of the lower bowl front of the glass tickets went for $3,000, that the demand was there, that there was standing room where you guys were playing, and then the crowd yelling, "Thank you, Boston." What do you remember about the ending there and the salute from the crowd?
Yeah, I think emotion going through. When you get that close, I think we just kind of fell short, ran out of steam, unfortunately. It was hard because we fought so hard just to even get into the playoffs, and then we kind of went through a crazy first round with Montreal, all those long overtime games, and then we kind of fought pretty hard against them, and they hit their stride at the right time, and we just couldn't keep up, unfortunately, in that last game. And then, I think, I was pretty emotional at the end, just because you never really know you're going to get back there. And, there was set one into it, and you just want to win it for the girls that, you suit up alongside every single game. And then, to hear the fans at the end, it meant a lot. I think, even though we didn't win, they were still with us, had our backs, and super loud that game. I remember, we didn't score a goal, obviously, but they were super loud the whole game. And, I think it was pretty cool, and definitely emotional in the ice, and it's hard, but kudos to them. They had quite the series, and kind of a full circle moment for Kendall Coyne, right? She did so much league to build it, to get it to where it is, and if I'm gonna lift that cup, I'm super, obviously we wanted to do it, but for someone like to do it for the first time was cool. Obviously we want to win it, but super grateful for the fans and for everything they did for us, and hopefully next year they're just as loud.
You talked about how you guys had to really fight at the end of that season. How do you think that's going to impact this group's character going forward in future PWHL Boston seasons?
I think it's huge. I think you can take a lot out of it, right? I think sometimes those moments where maybe they don't go your way, it really helps sometimes. And we have a lot of vets, but we also have a lot of players that I think can learn from a lot of things that we went through, right? Like as players, we haven't through series like that before. So I know I took a lot out of it. I will do things, differently in the future, and learning how to kind of not ride the roller coaster. You kind of have to learn how to stay the whole time. And in a 5-game series, you can't get too high, too low, right? It's not just one game. It's a new game, a new day. Sometimes if you got to jump right back up and try to group. So I think it was build a lot of character, but also like kind of build our culture of what we have in room. And we have a great core group of players there, and it really showed, I think, even through, the first round as well. So, I think the experience, obviously winning also is more fun, but, sometimes you got to lose first before you win. So we're hoping to do that.
Not to cut your playing career short, because I know it's still long and healthy, but have you ever thought about now with, we talk about this being an option for women out of college and, finally having something to look forward to, being able to make this their profession. But finally, we're also seeing women in management roles, in scouting roles, in on-ice training roles, assistant coaching roles. It has that, now that door is opening more and more, is that something on your mind in the future, or are you not thinking about that yet?
I haven't thought about it too much. I hopefully have a couple more years, but I think you're right, though. I think there is something there. We have this league, and there's also more roles in the game, right? You're so right. And it's cool to see also, inside you see some females being thought about for coaching roles, and someone like Jessica Campbell, who I'm playing with, is now, she's been in the AHL for obviously coaching. And I just think the cool thing is now there's so many more opportunities for everybody, necessarily just women too, right? There's so many opportunities for people to be in the game at a high level, at the professional level. I think for me, when I'm done, I'm sure I'll want to be in the game. I think I love it so much. I love talking about it. I love being around it. I love part of it. So, not about it too much. I think I'm gonna try to do this as long as I can, because I love the rain day. I love going to the gym. I love being around though. I think that's something that hopefully when I'm done, some doors do open, and I'm just excited to, get back to work here soon for next season.
If you were to have had the PWHL as you were coming up through college, I'm curious, what would you have done differently, or are there any other doors or paths that you might have considered that you otherwise wouldn't have?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I would have done differently. I was, I was pretty fortunate to be through the now since I was 16, teens and development. So went through university, that was kind of my goal. And I think the way I approached the game would have been similar. I think if there was this league, I think back when I was, graduating, the CWHL was around, and that was a very good league too. There was so much good, obviously. The money we do now, but it was still somewhere to play hockey. Was kind of my goal at the time, was playing hockey as long as I could. So the way I would have done it probably wouldn't have changed too much. I'm sure the way we, would have, I think for some players, about when I played in university, they had to go work full-time jobs because hockey wasn't written, right? They had to decide either to keep playing hockey and work part-time, or just go for a full-time job route. So that was a lot. I think the girls that were graduating had decisions, and now the cool thing is, not as many players had. So I probably wouldn't have different. I think it would have, still wanted to play at a high level. So, but I think now the cool thing is like I said, there's, girls don't have to make those decisions right away.
I wanted to talk about theme nights. There's obviously a bit of controversy with the NHL deciding to take certain things away, and not going to put you on a spot to get into a hot debate about that. But with the Hockey Fights Cancer that the NHL did, they did Pride nights, and things are unfortunately, in my opinion, changing, and that's the NHL. But the PWHL, there was a Pride game that you were a part of, and the impact that they're going to be able to have on the community and on young men and women who are watching, and of course older as well. But it doesn't seem like that is going to be something that they're going to shy away from. Very inclusive, supportive. What does that mean to you, and playing in a game like that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it means everything now that we have this platform, to talk, to be a part of it. I think it's so, so important. And, we want to make hockey such an inclusive game. I think with any sport, you want anyone to be able to play at any time and feel comfortable in their own skin to be able to play. And I mean, I'm super proud of the game we had in Boston. I think we did such a great job. And I just remember going out on the ice for warm up, seeing all these different signs, rainbow flags, people that, did all for the Pride game. I thought it was super, super cool. And it just shows that we've really created an atmosphere that is super inclusive, and, anybody can drink and feel comfortable, whether they're watching or playing or anything. So that one I was super proud of. And, I think our team and, our business team did such a great job of really making it special. And I'm glad we were kind of raised for Sport of Rainbow. They've been super close to my heart over the last year. So I think you can kind of build on it. And it's not just, the Pride nights too. I think it's anything we can do, like you said, fights cancer, mental health awareness, things like that are super important in anything, but also in sports, right? I think sports is an outlet for a lot of us, and we just want to make sure that it's a happy place and not somewhere where we don't feel safe. So proud of how we've done these nights. Now that we have more time planning them this year, I think you'll see them even bigger.
Awesome.
And this next question is presented by Bauer's Pride Initiatives, this next question is presented by Bauer in support of Nesson's Pride Initiatives. And I know that both Sophia and I are very impressed by all of the work that you do in the community. So how did you first get involved with Sport of Rainbow?
Yeah, actually, Sport Rainbow, Rose Powers is her name. And she started Sport Rainbow a handful of years ago, and I actually met her at a hockey rink, of course, and I saw a table set up, and we got chatting, and just wanted to be a part of how much she's done for the game. She started as this little organization that just wanted to be around and show young you that you can be whoever you are at the hockey rink. And she also does any sport too, but it just was super special to me, and we made a good connection. And over the years, able to do certain charity events together, and also just these Pride nights like this, the more we can do. So it was a cool connection that we had, and something that's special to me. And she continues to get a little bit bigger, and you see her in different area teams, and I think it's just really cool to see how big it's got. And every time she comes and sees me, she brings me stickers and bracelets and T-shirts, and all the girls come up and wear them. So that just makes me super happy. Everybody wants to be a part of it, and I think I was super lucky growing up that I had a super safe space for me, who I am, and not everybody's had that same journey, right? Some people have had some more difficult paths, and I just want to show them that it can be easier, and hopefully there's some role models. Someone has a role model to look up to, and maybe that helps them through their journey. So, we're going to continue to work together, and hopefully even bigger next year.
I love that. And a couple of people close to me, like you said, unfortunately did not have safe spaces growing up with that. And it's hard to hear their stories. They found their communities, unfortunately outside of their families, which breaks my heart, and it makes me sad. But I'm so happy that there are communities that are aware that that could be the scenario, and trying to create new family for people who deserve to have that. And I'm sure when you're part of this work, probably the stories that you hear from people in the community, and just the fact that we're on this podcast, we're talking about it, we want to promote it, like this is all amazing things going forward because of the things that you do and the organization does. So I'm sure getting that kind of feedback, or just running into someone and hearing an individual story, probably fuels the passion to continue to being part of it.
Yeah, but I think we've all had, and I hope that somewhere, a safe space in hockey rink. I hope that's someone's journey. So like you said, we've all had different ones, and I've had friends close have had different journeys also. The more we can kind of make it known that it's okay to be who you are, and it doesn't matter what that looks like, whether you're part of the LGBTQ plus community or just even not feeling like, I think it's important to create a safe space for everybody. And like I said, I've been very fit, and everyone, especially in our locker room, is backing that up, and I think it's really important to continue to do that.
For people who are on teams or in communities and they want to create a safe space, what are some things that they can do to do that? I know you said that your journey was pretty easygoing and you felt really comfortable being yourself. So what were the people around you doing that made you feel like you could be yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think honestly, just talking to the people around you, I think even or people, I think it's just important to be open with them and make them feel comfortable. They're whether you're not going through the same thing or not, it's just important to try and understand thinking and how they're perceiving the world. That's really important. And I think in hockey, it's on a team, it's super easy. You come into a locker room, and most of the time you have 20 best friends, and you all have one common goal. And I think that kind of helps too. Sometimes there's a way everybody's coming to the rink, motivated to get better every time. I think as long as you're open and willing to talk to anybody about anything that's going on in their life, I think that's super important. And I think sometimes you don't always understand it, but as long as you try your best to understand, it's kind of the big thing. Is I may not understand right away what you're going through or what you're thinking, but I can try my best to listen to you and understand what you're thinking. So I think we've done a good job, especially on the women's side, of doing that. And like I said before, I've been on teams that have been amazing and such a good atmosphere to walk into. So feeling super lucky to be a part of that.
Pivoting just a little really quick here, and then we'll let you go. But obviously, like I said, long hockey career ahead still for you. I'm assuming Olympics are still a goal. The summer ones are going to be fun to watch in July in Paris, but then we've got a couple years before the winter ones, representing Team Canada. And what's going to be neat now is, as with the PWHL, being able to see your opponents a little bit more, playing for representing other countries. Is that still a goal for you in a couple years?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's always will be a goal for everybody. I think having this league will, I think, add more depth to every single team, every single league. But that's always going to be a goal. I mean, when I got to in 2022, it was the all variants, and that I've been striving for my whole life. And it's funny because sometimes I see pictures or see mine. Sometimes it feels pretty surreal that got to be a part of that. So. Something that I will always strive in. I think you'll see the cool thing is the level of the Olympics and the World Championship go up every single season, and it's pretty fun to be a part of. The 2 games we played against the U.S. this year at Worlds were some of the fastest games I've ever been a part of. So I think we have the PWHL to thank for that, and I just think it's really, really cool and something that I'll always strive for. And representing your country is something that will never get old. I know so clear it really isn't, and something that's super special every time you put that that Canadian jersey on. So just gonna keep working hard, and hopefully in the meantime, help PWHL Boston along the way. And I can't wait a couple of years.
And Jaime, just one last question for me. I know that you were obviously selected for the Olympics in 2022, but you didn't make the team in 2018, and that was your first time with the opportunity to make the Olympics out of college. And with all of the Olympic selection going on right now for the Summer Olympics, there are athletes who may be expected to make a team and aren't making a team, or at least hope they would make a team and aren't. And I'm curious what your advice is for them and how they can use this to fuel them going forward in their athletic careers.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time it was one of the hardest phone calls I've been a part of for sure. It was not an easy, it's something that you work for 4 years, and something. Oh, there's my dog jumping in the screen here, but yeah, I mean, it's okay. Diversity, I think is okay. I think, it's okay to, be upset and be a part of it and kind of be in your feelings for a little bit. Sometimes you can reflect and look back on it and say, okay, how can I be better after then? What do I have to do now to make the next step? And that was something that I had to take a step back and say, okay, well, why am I not there? What do I have to do to change that? And also put so much pressure on myself that last year leading up to 2018. And I just wasn't loving it anymore. I think I was just, way too much pressure. After at least I was able to take some time, and I kind of routine a little bit. I just changed my trainer, changed the environment a little bit, and I just started to love the game a little bit more. And that Olympic in the CWHL was one of the funnest years of my life. I got to play with some pretty great people and win a championship, which I think really just helped me, love the game again. And so I think, for anything, even individual sports, I'm sure it's a little bit, but adversity can be okay, and it's that much sweeter to get the second time for sure. I was an athlete when I made it, and I remember just walking into the village and feeling so cool and so prideful to be there, and so humbled actually that being around those athletes was super cool. So sometimes it's always a bad thing. At times it really sucks, but in the end it can be okay.
Well, listen, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you had a crazy season and you're resting. I hope you enjoy the loons, canoeing, fires, whatever you got going on at the cottage, and obviously the training too. So thanks for taking the time. Jaime Lee Rattray joined us on Respect Her Game, and best of luck next season.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
So awesome for her to be on the show, taking her time in her summer, much deserved. Obviously a crazy season. There are so many answers that she gave and questions that we asked, but something that I wanted to ask you about, because you can also speak to the atmosphere in Boston at Tsongas Center and what it was like that final game when we asked her about the crowd saying thank you Boston. I was watching from home TV, but I had chills, just what that meant, the thank you Boston, not just like thank you for the season, but thank you for what the future is going to be, what I loved. But I know you did some in arena hosting there. So what was the atmosphere like throughout the season?
It was amazing. I remember the first game that I in arena hosted for there, I was a little bit nervous because I had actually never done anything in arena before. It was my first experience, and
Whoa.
You're dealing with live fans. Like when I'm on TV, I don't have live reaction from people, but I was a little bit like, this is going to be my first time. I was a little bit nervous. And I remember the very first read that I did, I think I just introduced myself, and I think it was a women's in sports night. It was the first night. I said, welcome, women's in sports night. And the crowd starts cheering, and I'm kind of thinking like, what are they cheering about? And then I'm like, oh wait, no, they're cheering for me. And I remembered like throughout all of the in arena things that I did, like the crowd was engaged. They were really enthusiastic and just seemed like so excited to be there and really engaged in the entire experience. And just also looking at the crowd too, something that we spoke about a little bit in this episode, just in feeling with Jaime, just feeling like it's okay to be yourself. I definitely got that sense there from the audience and that fan base. It was something that I haven't seen a lot at a lot of hockey games, just the amount of diversity and the feeling of inclusion there.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Unfortunately, we're wrapping up the show, but we can, again, like, I feel like I'm pausing 7 different storylines with you, but that's great. And we'll just have you back on. We talked about pausing the imposter syndrome conversation, but in this particular one, this one deserves so much more time. And it's difficult to navigate because I just spent the first half of the show being like, I love the Bruins organization. I love working for them in the NHL. But there has been, in my small taste of working in women's hockey, women's beanpot, I did cover the CWHL back when it was a league in Canada a little bit. But even your experience, there's something to be said about the types of crowds that women's hockey attracts and being around the team. I don't know if there's just culturally as women, we know what it's like to not be thought of maybe or to be forgotten. So maybe because you've kind of grown up with that, you just don't do that for other people and you're more inclusive. But I am noticing a big difference between crowds at NHL arenas and crowds at like women's hockey games. And there's something, again, I don't want to talk too much about it because I'm not doing with this little time, not doing it justice to get into it. And I don't want to knock NHL fans because they're the best. I love them. Like, I love them so much. There's just this different vibe, and I'm not sure exactly what it is, but maybe the more time we spend in it, we'll figure out what it is.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I don't want to knock NHL fans at all. Like, I also love being in NHL arenas, but it's just a different vibe. Kind of same with the WNBA and NBA. It's a different vibe. And I just love everything that women's sports is doing right now.
Me too. Okay, well, unfortunately, we're out of time. That was fast, super fun. Just try to keep track of the things we're gonna revisit together, Laura. But for now,
All right, notes.
we'll say goodbye to everyone listening, and we'll see you next week on Respect Her Game.